Alright, so welcome back again, and in this video we're going to go ahead and show you how to program your Gottlieb System 1. Now this is a Sinbad, which is part of the Gottlieb System 1 series, and for the most part every single game gets programmed very similarly, and especially since we're using a new CPU, or MPU, the Ni-Wumpf System 1 replacement CPU. Alright, this is the Mark II version. There may be other revisions out there, but this is the one that I currently run in my Sinbad. They run all System 1 games, okay? So we're going to go through and show how to program the Ni-Wumpf CPU, or MPU, whichever way you want to go ahead about it. I replaced the old original System 1 MPU because, well, it was trash. I had a whole bunch of spider chips on it broken, but that's for a whole nother video. We're going to go ahead and make a little mini series on the System 1 and go through the driver boards and the MPU and all that kind of stuff, okay? So we'll go through it all and show you some of the modifications you can do, show you the new boards you can buy, replacement boards, like modern day replacement boards, and kind of give you an overview of the original board sets that came with it. You know, the manual here that comes with the Ni-Wumpf, it goes through a bunch of overview and descriptions and the design history and stuff like that. You know, all that's cool and all, but we are going to focus on the actual setup procedure. So I'm going to get you set on the tripod. We're going to turn the lights down a little low so you can see the display a little better, and then we'll go from there. Before we do that though, I want to show you the button you need in order to get into the system setup, and that's right inside the coin door here. It's going to look like one of your typical interlock switches, but here's the deal. It's not an interlock switch. It's a regular momentary push button switch, because you can't pull it out and lock it in place like you can an interlock switch. You push it down and it activates into the setup mode, or the maintenance mode, or operator's mode, however you want to say it. Okay? So, now that you know how you get into it, I'm going to go ahead and set you on the tripod now, and we're going to move on to the next step. So see you in just a sec. Alrighty, so now that I got you all set up, we're going to go ahead and go into the functions here. Now, prior to this, I want you to know we need to go and understand some of the setups that we have here, okay? So, like I showed you before, the test switch inside the coin door itself is how you enter into the operator's menu, pretty much. It might not be the same switch you saw. It might be just a typical micro switch of some kind, or momentary switch, whatever. But there's going to be a switch within the coin door most likely, and that's how you get into it. And when you press it, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get setup right off the bat, okay? Now, we have setup, data, hardware, and options, alright? Now, the setup menu is how you're going to change things like the number of balls per play, your first, second, and third thresholds, your high score, your auto percentaging, your ball save, and you can also enable 4 high scores to date, showing your high scores to date, enabling the millions, your total tilts, your idle animations, which is actually like a, what would you call that? Oh, I forget the name of it. Attract mode, that's it. You can set up an attract mode for this game. Your fast bonuses and your skill shots. Now, these are things that you normally could not set up with the original MPU. A lot of these things are added. Like, for just a quick example, the idle animation, or your attract mode, they didn't have that in the original System 1s. While with this one, you can actually get an attract mode where it lights up all the playfield lights in a certain pattern that attracts people to the game. Another thing that's new would be something like enable millions. So you can actually make over 1,000,000 points and be good to go. You can also have 4 high scores to dates. That wasn't possible before as well. Same with auto percentaging. Auto percentaging basically means it'll change the thresholds. And remember, the thresholds are the scores you'd see on your, say, your scorecard down on your apron. Let's say if you make 100,000 points, you get an extra ball. Make 250,000 points, you get an extra ball, so on and so forth. If you set auto percentaging up, it'll adjust those thresholds depending on how well people are playing as the game goes, and you'll see that in the data as well. So, the key thing to remember, to go through each of the settings, as in the setup, the data, and so on, you're going to press the test switch to go from one to the next. To enter the specific setup, you're going to hit the start button that's on the front of the coin door, okay? And once you do that, so we're in setup, I'll hit the start button. You'll see in the player 1, it says number. Player 2 says balls. So we're talking about the first setting, which is number of balls. Player 3, as you can see in the lower left corner, says 3. So that's how many balls we're able to use. Now if we want to change that, we're going to press the start button on the front of the coin door. As you can see, it went to 4, and 5, and 6. This one is set up where you can make it, I think it goes all the way up to 10. Oh, 8. But we're going to keep it at 3 because this is a solid state, and I feel all solid states should be 3. Even most EMs should be 3. But to go on to the next one, which is the first threshold, you'll press the button on the coin door that brings you into the operator's mode. So first threshold is 100,000 points. That's how I have my game set up, okay? I'm going to keep it like that, but the same thing applies. If you want to change it, you're going to press the start button on the front of the coin door to actually adjust the setting of that. We'll go to the next one, which is 220,000. Third threshold is 320,000. The high score to date is 898,640. Now that's my own personal score. I'm not going to change that, okay? But if you wanted to set, let's say you had the game for the very first time, set this up. Give yourself a high score to date to try to beat. Don't stick with what's on the game, alright? So, to do that, you would also press the start button on the front of the coin door. You can reset this to 0 and then go ahead and increment it on the way up by pressing the start button on the front of the coin door and the service switch on inside of the coin door at the same exact time, and it'll create that as 0. Again, I'm not going to change that because it's my own personal score. Now the next one is auto percentaging. I have it set to 0, which means it's disabled. Setting it to, well, this is actually based on a percentage, so 0 is disabled, and then anything from 1 to 30 is your percentage base, so 1% up to 30%. And that's how you go ahead and set your auto percentage. I'm going to keep it on 0 because I don't want the thresholds to change depending on how well we play. Because there are times you're going to play really well, and there are going to be times that you play horrible. So I'm not going to change this. The next one is your ball save. Alright? Now, what you're setting here is your seconds. So what this means is when you start a game and you go from ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, and so on, you're going to have X amount of seconds until the light that says player shoot again, the shoot again light basically, will turn off. So what this is doing is it's making the game think that you have a shoot again or an extra ball for that ball in play for a certain amount of time. And that timer begins the very moment you hit any of the micro switches on the playfield. I have mine set up for 6 seconds, which I found is actually pretty good for Sinbad gameplay. So if you drain your ball into the trough with under 6 seconds, you get another chance to play. Hang on a sec. I gotta go back to setup here. Alright. So, like I said before, 6 seconds, and if you do that within 6 seconds, you get another chance on the same ball in play. If it's beyond that, say 7 or 8 seconds, well, that light's going to turn off and the game will know to end that ball, count your bonus, and go to the next ball in play. So we'll go to the next setting, which is Enable for High Scorer to Date. 0 is disabled, 1 is enabled. Basically what that means is if you have it set as 0, it'll only keep track of and display 1 high score to date, which is the number 1 high score. I have it set to 1, so basically you have first place, second place, third place, and fourth place. So the top 4 high scorers will display during the idle mode or the attract mode. The next one is show high score to date. You can basically make it so the high scores that are set in the game doesn't get shown during the attract mode. You set that to 0 to disable it. As you can see, mine is set to 1, so it's going to go ahead and show the high scores to date. The next one is enable million, which you can see I have it enabled. 0 is disabled. Which that means is it gives the game the ability to actually create a 1 million plus score. It'll actually make the displays scroll so it can show all the digits. Because right now, the highest you could do prior to this Ni-Wumpf board, or if you have it disabled, is 999,999. But with it being enabled, you can go beyond that into the millions realm. So I have mine enabled just in case I happen to actually make it into a million. The next one is the total tilts. What this means is the amount of tilts you're allowed to have before the game is game overed. Alright, so if you shake the machine 3 times in a ball play and it tilts out on you, your game's over. They're not letting you play anymore. After that we have the idle animation, and just like I said before, that's your attract mode where it does various different light shows on the playfield. 0 is disabled. 1 is enabled. So as you can see, I have mine enabled, so whenever it's in attract mode, the lights in the playfield will randomly activate just to kind of attract you to the game. The next one is the fast bonus. 0 is disabled, 1 is enabled. The original board didn't have this, but what this is when it counts down your bonus score, this makes the count a lot faster. So instead of taking a lot of time like the original setup would do, this would go much slower or much faster so you can hurry up and get to the next ball or to the next player. This is the skill shot. 0 is disabled, 1 is enabled. What this basically does is it gives you an ability to actually have a skill shot. The original system one set up didn't have this, and in the top 4 drop targets or drop lanes, it'll randomly light up one of those lights. Alright? And whichever one is flashing before you shoot your ball is considered the skill shot. If you make it into the skill shot, you're awarded X amount of points, which you can set those points up later. Alright, so for example, mine is set up for 10,000 points. So if I hit the skill, depending on whichever one's lit, I'll get a bonus of 10,000 points. And that's the actual setup. Yep, that's the setup part. So the setup is done. So we get to move on to the next setup, or next point, which is data. I'll have to go back through this, but so data is next, guys, so we'll see you in a sec. Alright, so we already went through the setup. Now we're going to go to data. Now data is basically like it says. It's just giving you the information, telling you on how much stuff happened. As in, how many credits have come to the game. Since my game is set up on free play, it's 0 credits. The game starts, I have 2,902 starts. That means how many times the game start button has been pressed, and that includes multiplayer too. The next one is the coins on the left chute and the coins on the right chute. Then we have total replays. Now remember, replays for this game is going to essentially be however you set them up. That can be an extra credit that's given, or it can be an extra ball that's given. Okay, and on this particular game we have 303. The number of slams, we are at 55. A slam is essentially considered the same as a tilt. It's kind of when you hit the coin door too hard and the switch on the coin door is activated. That's called a slam switch. So we have 55 slams on this. Number of extra balls. So how many extra balls you've actually earned in the entire game system. That's 1,727 for ours. The number of tilts. That's the side-to-side shaking. So your tilt bob. If you activate your tilt bob, it's going to count towards this. We've had 9 so far. Your average scores. Then that's basically taking all the scores that have been played from the moment I've started this programming of the board to the moment of going through the menu. The average is 117,000 points. Okay? Not very impressive, but I guess it is what it is. And data done. Just like setup done, you're going to press the start button and you'll be back in the lineup. So we go to the next one, which is hardware. Okay? And the hardware is basically how you test various different things. Right now we're on displays, so I press the start button again, it's going to test the displays. As you can see, it'll go through all the displays to make sure the segments are working properly. That includes the ball and play and credit display down below that you can't see right now. Alright, and to stop this, I'm going to press the start button again, and it's going to go to the next one, which is a rolling setup. Now the reason why this is important is because this is a Ni-Wumpf board. And with it being able to have millions, you need to make sure your rolling display, like it does right now, is working properly. Alright? So, now we're back to the segment display. We'll go ahead and press the test button that's inside the coin door. And now we're on lights. And the lights are literally just going to flash. And I'll show you the best I can here. I'll hit it again. It flashes all the lights on the playfield, letting you know if you have any burnt out lights. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, which is coils. This will go through all the computer-controlled coils inside the game. So your drop target resets and stuff like that. And it'll make sure that they're working properly. Now we're on the switch test. And essentially the switch test is going to tell you what kind of switches are not working properly. We're not going to go ahead and do that on camera. I've already done this personally, but basically you activate this and it will display in there whatever switches are either permanently closed. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It will only display switches that are permanently closed. So like the ball and the trough, for example, that one's going to come up. But if you have drop targets that are down, those ones are going to come up as well. Or if you have a stuck switch, like say a trough switch or a through switch or anything like that, it's going to tell you that, and then you can take the switch diagram in your manual, compare what the switch number is, and then adjust that switch. Okay? This right here, if I were to press the start button, which I'm not going to because it'll destroy a lot of the stuff I've already worked on in this game, this is how you set your game back to default. Initiate. I-N-I-T-E. If I do this, all my high scores I currently have, all my thresholds and everything will be erased and go back to default setting. I don't want that, so I'm not going to press the start button on this one. But if you get you get a new game, or you get a game from another person, it has a Ni-Wumpf in it with all their original settings or the settings that the previous owner had, and you don't like them, you can start from scratch by going to hardware, going to initiate, and hit the start button. And that will clear everything, and you can start from scratch. Alright, so we're done on hardware. Let me move to the next page. And we're going to be going to options next, as you can see here. Now, most of these options are going to be based off of the original System 1 MPU. There wasn't much of a reason to change too much of this. There are going to be some changes, but really not very much. So press our start button. Now, this is basically the part where you talk about coins being entered in order to make the game start. You can adjust it all you want. Mine currently is set for free play, so I'm not worried about any of these settings, okay? Credit limits, all that kind of stuff. So, if somebody drops in, 10 quarters and it's 25 cents a play, instead of there being 10 credits, after X amount of credits, say 6 of them, it'll start rejecting the coins for you because of the coil release that's on the coin door itself. Coin sounds. So if you have it set up for coin play, you can actually have it make a sound when a coin is dropped in. I recommend keeping this on 1 anyway, because if somebody chooses to put it off free play, a sound indication that your coin went through is always good for the customer, just so they know that their credit was made. Show credits. This is also set to 1. Again, same reason. If you go from free play to coin play, it's always nice to be able to see on the display how many credits you have until you're done. Special credit. Now, a special credit basically what this means is if you get a special, like if you earn a special within, like, for example, your top left trough or through target or lane target on the top is 5,000 and special. A special must be set up so you either are getting an extra ball or an extra credit. Now, since it's set to 0, that means I don't get an extra credit for getting a special. I'm going to most likely get the extra ball, okay? 1 would be giving you a credit. 0 will not give you a credit. That doesn't mean that this setting is all you need in order to get an extra ball for that. If you don't have the extra ball set up, then once this goes through a special, you'll get nothing, okay? This one is special overed. If you have it set for 0, you're good to go. If you set for 1, basically it overrides every setting you have for what a special is. I don't know why they even have this in here, but it might be useful for certain vendors on location. Okay? A special award. Now, this is going to go ahead and set what your special award value is. Okay? And it's from 1,000 to 60,000. So, my special award, for example, is 20,000 points. Alright? And that's on top of the bonus ball that I currently have set up in here. So not only if you get a special do you get 20,000 points, but you get an extra ball when it comes to my game. Score sounds. 0 and 1 are your only options. 0 is disabled, 1 is enabled. And this basically gives the computer the ability to give sound when you're making scores. So if you hit your pop bumpers, your drop targets, or when you drain your ball, and it counts your score at the end, it gives you sound for it. Enable match. I have this set on 1, which is enabled. 0 is disabled. This is just mainly so if you have a coin setup, at the end of the game, it'll give you a random match number in the ball and play section, and if the last 2 digits of your score matches that, you get an extra credit. Okay, so you can see how free play doesn't really matter, but if you have on location or it's coin operated, this can make a difference, because if you match, well, you get an extra game. So, yeah. Extra ball limit. Okay, now what this does is it sets the maximum amount of extra balls you can accumulate per ball in play. So I have it set up for 5. And I believe you can go as high, you can go as high as 8. So, essentially, the game will remember how many extra balls you accumulate during your ball and play. And I have mine set for 5 because, I mean, honestly, I have never seen anybody get 5 extra balls in a single ball and play. Not saying it's impossible, I just haven't seen it. So mine's kind of set a little bit high, but if you get the 5, you kind of deserve it, in my opinion. High score to date award. Now, basically, 0 means there's nothing. You get nothing for it. Well, 1 means you're going to get 3 replays or 3 extra games. Again, on free play, it doesn't matter. On coin play, it does matter. I set mine for 1, so if I ever sell the game, like most of the other settings like this, and it goes a coin up, it's already set and ready to go. So if you break the high score, you're going to get 3 balls. Or 3 games, I mean. You're going to get 3 games to play right off the bat. Enable advance. Let's double check that quick. I have no idea what this is, because it's nowhere on my actual chart that I'm looking at. So I have no clue what this means. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it be as it is, set on 1. It obviously means it's enabled, so it's working. I'll have to look into it a little farther, and I'll make a little update on the side when we do some extra stuff with the Sinbad. But if you guys already know what enable advanced means on the Ni-Wumpf Mark II CPU board, throw it in the comments below so we all can know. Alright, so that's the end of the options, okay? And our next one is the game. Now, I should have mentioned this right away in the beginning, but before you go through all the garbage of setting your programming and all this stuff, you should go into the game mode, because this is how you choose what game the pinball machine is running. Because that's the neat part about the Ni-Wumpf. It has all System 1 games programmed into the board. And instead of having to swap out the EEPROMs whenever you want to play it or put your MPU or anything in a different System 1 pinball, you just go into the game mode here and you select the actual game. As you can see, it says Sinbad in the player 3 because my game is a Sinbad. And it goes all the way down from Cleopatra, Sinbad, Joker Poker, Dragon, Solar Ride, Countdown, Close Encounter, Charlie's Angels, Pinball Pool, Totem, Incredible Hulk, Genie, Buck Rogers, Torch, Roller Disco, and Asteroid Annie. So, if you ever have a problem with your Ni-Wumpf board, like scoring wise, like it doesn't seem like it's playing the proper game, this could be your issue right here, okay? So we already have that selected. Now Expert, going into Expert, these are about lag times and other types of very specific settings, okay? We're not going to go ahead and change this, because pretty much this is set up in the nanosecond area. It's like how long a coil is held for before it's released, and those are things like your drop target coils, your pop bumper coils, so on and so forth, okay? Lamp enabling times, 15 milliseconds. These are all timings, is what this is set up for. If you ever have issues where a switch is activating, but it's not really working, like you could have a lag time issue, okay? Alright. And that's it. That's all the settings for the game, guys. So, if you have any questions about how to program a Ni-Wumpf System 1 board, go ahead and let me know. And I'll do my best to try to answer them for you, okay? So, until next time, I'll see you guys later. And I hope you have a good one. Take care.